All right, everybody. In today's podcast, we're joined by Dan Staton, repeat guest on the podcast, friend of Vortex, elkshape.com, the Elk Shape podcast, multiple content streams. Dan is always kicking out really cool content across the board. Dan also has his Elk Shape Camps, which are in-person events that cover every facet as it pertains to elk hunting. So if you haven't caught on, if it's in the name of better elk hunting, as Dan says, he covers it all. So now why are we talking about Dan's Elk Shape Camps? Very interesting. That's because we have one that's coming up again here at Vortex in April of 2023. So there's still a few slots left. You can still sign up. It's here right at Vortex, so maybe we'd get to see you if you sign up. It's going to be an awesome camp. The one he held last year was an awesome camp, and that's what we're podcasting about today. So you're going to get to hear from Travis, who works here at Vortex and is a big-time elk hunter, big-time Western hunter across the board. And Travis actually participated in the Elk Shape Camp that we held here. So we're going to talk with Dan, we're going to talk with Travis, get both their perspectives, hear all about the camp through Travis's eyes, and it's a good one. So tune in. So if you're not convinced, or you need something to push you over the edge, hopefully this is the tipping point, because elk are tough to kill, man. It ain't easy, and if you're like me, I can use all the help I can get, and an Elk Shape Camp is just the way to do it. Tune in, listen up, and maybe we'll see you here right at Vortex. What is up, everybody? We have 10 minutes to talk with good buddy Dan Staton from Elk Shape, and to my right, I've got Travis, part of our consumer sales team, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Travis because Travis won't talk about himself. Travis is one of the better elk hunters I know. He's one of the best elk callers I know. He can consistently finds elk and kills elk and brings them back into his freezer. So, Travis, my compliments to you. I heard some of your calling, actually, for the first time at the Conservation Expo. You were kind of ripping on that bugle a little bit, and I was like, holy mackerel. If this guy was calling in the woods, I would be moving towards him. So, big compliment
it happens. There. You call in a few hunters out west.
So, another thing I like about Travis, and kind of why I brought up his elk background, is because when Travis heard that Dan was going to hold his Elk Shape Camp here at Vortex, you're pretty jacked about it. And I think that's really cool because you're an experienced elk hunter, but you're still thirsting for that knowledge, still wanting to learn, willing to listen, get other people's takes on things. And even if you find just that, 1, 2, or 3 nuggets that you can put in your bag of tricks, you want those things. And I think that shows a really strong elk hunting drive, Travis. So I think that's super cool.
Well, goodness, you're awfully kind to me.
Well,
I don't know how much of it is totally true, but
it's all true. Dan, let's talk a little bit about the Elk Shape Camp that you had at Vortex, and I'd like to get your take on just the camp itself, how it went. That was your first time being here at Vortex. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I don't think it ever got above 0 degrees the whole time I was in Wisconsin. And I live in Spokane, so I'm used to cold, but that's just that wind. That was a different level. So I think I spent 13 seconds outside the whole 5 days I was there. Vortex Edge you spoiled us. That was the best facility we've ever been able to do a camp out of. I don't know how many camps we've done over the course of 4.5 years, but just a sweet location for us. Everything was very dialed. It made us look good. Which is always nice. But you guys were very hospitable. I felt like we were able to deliver a really remarkable experience for our campers.
That's awesome, man. That's great to hear, and we appreciate the kind words. I mean, it was fun for us. I mean, we've known each other for a number of years, and so it was awesome to have you out here personally, but then you brought, the team of experts that you, incorporate into the camps, and it was great to have them out here as well and kind of, get to chat with them, pick their brains a little bit. I mean, you guys were moving and grooving. I mean, that was a very intense schedule that you had going there, but also a very very good one. So, Travis, what about you, man? Like I said, I mean, you've hunted elk a lot. So, what were you looking to get out of the Elk Shape Camp?
Sure. So one thing, kind of my how I break down elk hunting, or honestly, almost everything in my life, is I want to know everybody's way that they do it. I want to see how they do it, and I want to take something away from that to add to my bag of tricks. Because there's one thing that I have learned, just in life in general, not just elk hunting, which is kind of cool because that's what Elk Shape is about too, is it's going to change your life, not just your hunting experience, but is try to learn as much as you can and then make your own, revision of it. Try to do it your way, but by learning from everybody else. And that's one thing that I've seen a lot of success in, whether it's elk hunting or just life in general, is trying to, don't be closed-minded. Don't think I know it all. I know exactly what, how to kill these elk. I don't need anybody else's advice. Dude, there are so many people that, that are so good at so many things. And if you can just learn one or two things from each guy, it's going to make you better, in the end. And that was what my going to. And I told you, when I heard that Elk Shape, was coming to Vortex, and my wife's like, hey, like, did you know about this? And I was like, no, but I'm going to find out, And I was so jacked because, these are a lot of guys that I idolized for a lot of years, and they're really good at what they do. And it was so cool to be able to then meet them and hear them straight from their mouth, and from what's made them really good elk hunters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really cool thing to point out is, there's tons of information out there, Dan. You've got your podcast, we've got our podcast. You can read online articles. There's, you have your Elk Collective, where you can learn a lot. But at some level, there's no substitute for that in-person interaction. Yep.
And even I was the same way as, when you first walk in that room, when I first met Dan and Dirk and all the guys there, you just get that giddy little feeling, So you're just like, oh man, meeting them in person. So yeah, there's something to say about that personal interaction.
Mm-hmm.
That's really exciting to hear, Travis. But Trav is unique. We get a lot of newer elk hunters, but that doesn't mean we turn the fire hose down. We keep it all the way to the max throughout the entire camp. And we understand that folks drinking from a fire hose aren't going to necessarily grasp all the information till they go to the field, and then they go, oh, that's what they were talking about. But since we have Travis here, I might as well just pick on him. So I knew, based on his the form that he ingested and wrote his information, I knew he was like a veteran, a seasoned elk hunter with success. Which is not intimidating to me. I still know that we're going to sniff out areas of opportunity. And so in his instance, no, his elk calling was one of the best ones there by far. His shooting was pretty good. There's a couple tweaks there, but nothing much compared to most. But where we were able to finally figure out how to cut Travis apart was his e-scouting was good. But when you work with Mark Livesey, you learn that you don't know anything actually. And so I'm scared for the elk because his e-scouting prowess just went up level 10. And then a couple things I didn't think he would get exposed on, he did. One being his nutrition, and then two, tipping the scales for that, husband-wife relationship. Elk hunting is a very self-absorbed, selfish pursuit, and I think he recognized that. And I listened to him specifically advertise his goals at the very end. We make everybody do that, and it wasn't like I need to shoot more, I need to call more. It was really cool personal development type things. So we to me, that's the most rewarding part, in hearing that he's going to elevate his game not only with elk hunting but outside of elk hunting.
Yep. Hey, real quick, Dan, I know we did it previously in the 10-minute talk we did on what is an Elk Shape Camp, but can you kind of reiterate the components that a person can experience, with the experts that you have there?
Yeah, we generally start with the beginning and the end, day one. So we teach you how to get an elk tag in your pocket. So that means tag allocation, understanding each state, the draw process. And then once you secure an elk tag, whether it be over the counter or some sort of draw or general tag, how to start e-scouting because you live in Wisconsin or you don't live near the mountains. And to be honest with you, I live out west, but I e-scout 10x compared to actual boots on the ground because I'm married, I have kids, I can't put that time out. So that's the beginning part. On the end, we start with how to make a proper shot. with an elevated heart rate, under duress, under fatigue, how to not just slap the trigger and have anxiety or a degree of target panic. So we kind of start at the very end of the spectrums, getting the tag, learning how to find elk, and at the very end, okay, you've earned a shot opportunity. Here's how to maximize. And then we slowly, over the weekend, work our way back into the middle of covering the nutrition, the fitness, the finances, the elk calling, the elk behavior, biology, and then tactics.
It's one thing to add to that. It's so cool to see Elk Shape, Dan and all the guys, they add the financial part. Because that's one thing that I think is very often overlooked. Keeping good finances, making sure that your bills are paid so you can go elk hunting in the fall. Because it's, for us, I mean, being a resident, you hunt a lot of other states that you're not resident to, but there are a lot of, nobody from here is a resident to those western states where they're hunting elk. So it can get expensive, you know. So that's really cool to see them put that together. And that's really valuable. And that was one of my biggest takeaways too, you know, to be able to hear about that and you know, get a set goal, and they have some programs too where they help you with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's super cool about some of your takeaways there, Travis. They're kind of on what may seem like on the periphery of elk hunting, or maybe even to some people like unrelated, right? Well, how does that relate to elk hunting? That's not calling. That's not where to find them. That's not, you know how to shoot your bow better. But it's woven into that and really important, and really some of those things like your relationship, your marriage, which, you know, I know I can work on, your finances, I know I can work on that too. Those are pain points, or can be for some people. I think maybe a lot of people, pain points in that hunting process, or just even having hunting be a big component of your life and your lifestyle. So I think it's super neat that you guys dive into that with people who are super dialed in, Dan.
It is. And, you know, there's a cost for doing business when it comes to elk hunting, and there's trade-offs. And I think a lot of people, a lot of your listeners are married, have family, and it's important to put things into perspective and help folks prioritize elk hunting appropriately. I would love to put it as number one, friends, but it's not. There's other things that go in front of that. And I just want the support of my family when I'm hunting so I can hunt my best. And that's something that we definitely have to address, we as hunters. And it's exciting to have guys like Trav at the camp, man, that just breathe and have full fire for this stuff. You could see his passion, and I know he got better, and I know I get better, and I run these camps just because I'm being around like-minded elk hunters. I'm a sponge as well.
Super cool. Travis, is there anything that we left out of kind of like your experience doing the camp, or anything else you wanted to touch on?
Well, I have my handy notes here. I didn't print them off the computer, but I just jotted them down.
Yeah, I like that.
One big thing that I wanted to talk about, because I think, you know, when people look at this, they look at it as, I'm going to go learn about elk hunting. But what's really cool about Elk Shape is when I was sitting there thinking about how it's all broken down and how the structure of it is I started thinking about it's like in layers. And what Dan is doing, and all the guys that, you know, that are involved with it, what they're doing is they're going to peel away all these layers, because there's multiple layers to elk hunting, whether it's the calling, the e-scouting, the spot and stalk, your archery gear. And what Dan has done is he's found guys, you know, that are really good at those specific things. They geek out on it. And they're able to add their value to it. So that was just kind of one thing that I wanted to kind of let the listeners know, you know, when you're going to these things, they really peel it all away, all the different layers. They set them. They're going to find out what you're good at. Mm-hmm. They're going to find out what you're not good at. And even if you got to swallow some pride, learn from it, you know, because that's what it's about. And, you know, it's just trying to be a better elk hunter. But no, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed my time there. So that was really good.
Cool, man. No, it sounds like you guys do a good job at peeling back the layers of elk hunting and the layers of the individual as well, which like is that's tough. That can be tough. You know, I mean, I think it definitely leads to a level of vulnerability there, as well as like, you know, you're in front of a lot of other folks, like, you know, like up to like what, around, how many people were at that camp, Dan?
50.
I mean, 50 other people. So like, you know, you're kind of now you guys are doing this in smaller groups too. So it's not 50, like you know, you break it down into sections, what I think is really helpful as well, because you're going to get a little bit more of that one-on-one. It's going to be, you know, less intimidating as far as group size and things like that. But you're still talking about these things in front of other people. You're still shooting in front of other people. I know in the very little bit of competitive shooting that I've done, I guess this is more on the gun side, but man, there's a lot of pressure there just by adding a timer or other people are watching. That's probably like the worst part for me personally.
Yeah, because you can't get that anywhere else. You can't go out in your backyard and shoot your bow and somehow make yourself super nervous.
Right.
I am super nervous in front of crowds. He drew it out, and it's definitely something that that's a difficult thing to work on, obviously. But you can find other ways to grow from that. Pushing yourself into other situations that can help you under pressure too, to help you, in those situations as well. Yep. And then, like, one thing that I wanted to mention is there's little nuggets of information that you're going to get from going to these Elk Shape and talking to these guys that they're probably not going to release, just to anybody on a general podcast. So there are little, like Mark dropped one. He doesn't even know he dropped it. I don't know if Mark is a big elk or shed hunter or not, but like he dropped something on the e-scouting that I didn't know was, a thing on the Google Earth. And I was like, oh my God, that is a game changer for shed hunting. And so I thought that was kind of cool. So if you guys, there's little things that you're going to take away, that are just going to up your game in a lot of different areas. But
yep, I think you're going to take some big things away from the camp, likely, and you're going to take away little things that actually are big things. And so yeah, I think it's super cool. Dan, anything else? Did we miss anything?
No. Oh well, I think people overlook that when you sign up for this camp and you show up, that you're actually doing this thing called Elk Filter. You've like filtered out and you are rubbing elbows with, Travis was rubbing elbows with 49 other diehard, more than just interested elk hunters. And he's leaving with a book of business, a community, a network of people in his area that he can rub elbows with. Iron sharpens iron. And to me, I don't advertise that, but I know that's a huge value once we leave.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, Dan, I appreciate you coming out. Travis, it's awesome that you did the camp, and I appreciate you chatting with us about it. And everybody get out there, maybe sign yourself up for an Elk Shape Camp, and happy hunting this fall. Because Dan, if I'm not correct, the time to start preparing is now. We're in the beginning of March. Would you say you should be getting ready for elk season right now?
Yeah, you should have started yesterday, but we have today, so do something today in the name of better elk hunting. Now, what does that mean? It could break a sweat, or shoot your weapon, or do a little e-scouting, or do a little tag allocation research, but little something every day goes a long ways.
A little something every day goes a long ways. Do something today, every day, for the sake of better elk hunting. Dan, I like that. Thanks again. Always appreciate the time. Always good seeing you, chatting with you. And until next time, everybody, happy hunting and shooting. We'll catch you on the next one.